Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing the long-awaited comp makeup tutorial. I've just started by putting on some moisturiser and lip balm to get me started. First I'm going to be using the It CC Cream Foundation, then I'm going to blend it with a brush and a sponge. Next I'm using the House Labs Concealer, and then I'll blend it out with a brush and a sponge. Now I'm going to put a piece of tape on each eye just along here for my eyeshadow, like this, and try and make them as even as possible. Now for eyeshadow, I'll be using this Morphe Gold Seeker palette and these 4 eyeshadow brushes. First I'm going to start with this really light colour, and then I'm going to go over both of my eyes with it, my whole eye. Once you've done both eyes, I like to use a different brush for the next few shades. First I'm going to be using this one. And then when I'm blending this onto my eye, I only like to go halfway from the outside. It should now look something like this. Now that's done, I'll be using this shade. And I will also be using this brush again. And then I go from the outside again and just blend it into that colour we just did. Now I'm changing brushes for the next 2 shades. Next I'm going to be using this shade. And then I'm going to just be repeating the process that I just did pretty much. Starting from the outside and then blending into the colour we just did, while still keeping it so that you can see the colour we did before. I'm going to be using this brush again and going in with the darkest colour. This is how I blend it. And then once I've done that, I go in with one of the brushes I used before to make sure it's really blended. So this is what the base looks like. Now I'm going to be using the gold. This is the brush I like to use for my gold. And then I just put it on the white part. I'm going to be doing a few layers of that to make sure that it's really dark. This is what it should look like when it's all done. The next step is to take the tape off, and I like to start from the bottom going up. Then you might have some eyeshadow under here, so I'm just going to be cleaning that up with a cotton bud and some micellar water. I'm now just touching up with concealer where the tape was. Now I'm going to be using the Rare Beauty bronzer stick. Here's all the places that I put it. Now I'm going to blend it out with this brush. For the nose contour, I use this Patrick Tar brush. Next I'm using the Rare Beauty blush in the shade Bliss, and then the brush to blend it out. Next I'm using the Huda Beauty powder and this to apply it. So first I'm going to get some on here, then I dab it on my hand. And then I put it under my eye first. Then I do the same to the other side. Then I do the same thing for here, the other side. Then I do my nose. Then with the leftover powder on my hand and on the sponge, I just go in with the rest of my face. I do my chin, and then I also do my forehead. Now while I'm waiting for my powder to set, I'm going to do my brows with this Anastasia brow gel. This is my first brow done. Now I'm going to do the next one. Now my brows are done, and I'm going to use this brush to wipe off all the powder. For powder bronzer, I'll be using this in the Charlotte Tilbury palette, and I'm going to use this brush again. And I'm just going to go into the same places that I did with the bronzer before. And then I'll use my Patrick Tar brush again for my nose. Next I'm using the House Labs blush and then the Rare Beauty brush. Now for highlighter, I'm using this Charlotte Tilbury highlighter, and then the other end of the Patrick Tar brush. I'm using the MK Beauty eyeliner. Next for eyelashes, I'm using these Demi Wispies. I like to cut my eyelashes, so I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to be using 2 different mascaras, so I like to use this one for my top lashes and then this one for my bottom lashes. Now I'm going to be using this Urban Decay eyeliner for right here. This is the difference that it makes. Now I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. For lipstick, I'll be using this Kylie Lip Kit. First I'm going to do lip liner. Now I'm going to put on the lipstick. And then I'm just going to do one more layer of my Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. And that is the end of my comp makeup routine. Thanks everyone for watching. Bye!